Hi, welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Alan Rodbell of Scottsdale Police Department. With me is Ms. Chris Basal, our community liaison.
I love the Chris part and the Miss part.
I think you like the Miss part.
I do like the Miss part. How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Good.
It's October already. Unbelievable.
It doesn't feel like October because it's still 100 and something degrees.
Yeah, that's true. It's still warm. And,
like October in other parts of the country is really nice. You have sweaters on already. Although if you go any of the stores, they have sweaters and boots and everything. And you're like, flip-flops.
Yeah. And in fact, I heard today that millennials are already Christmas shopping.
They are?
They start Christmas shopping earlier.
Oh, I like
so you
to
want
go
to feel younger, go start Christmas shopping.
Yeah, maybe I should. I like to Christmas shop like on Christmas Eve. It's better.
I actually do that. I actually go to the mall just to watch people. I'm
Exactly,
usually done by then. I buy my own gifts, and my wife said, give me these things, I'll be very happy. And then I usually just sit and watch other people shop.
I do too. Fun. I think you can never start Christmas shopping until after the Thanksgiving parade by Macy's. Then
we shouldn't
be
talking about Christmas until after Thanksgiving. Here we are in October. Anyway, Halloween's coming up, so just a word of safety and caution to the folks out there driving through the neighborhoods.
Right.
Because kids will be
running in the streets and running down the street.
And on sugar, because they're snacking as they go. So.
And with masks that they can't see or costumes that are too long. So just really pay attention, and also to make sure you check the candy.
Yes.
Very important.
Yes, I agree. And so we are, we're in not the middle of our latest Citizens Academy.
We are.
Oh, we're actually in the middle already.
Yeah, today, I think tonight's the 4th night already, so we're halfway done.
It didn't take long at all.
No.
So as we always tell people, if you're interested in the next session, this is the time to start going online.
Right, and I have a couple applications already, but again, it's March through April next year, 2018, 8 consecutive Thursday evenings.
Okay. So we have a really interesting program today.
We do.
And I know you helped set it up, so why don't you give us an idea of what we're going to hear?
Well, we are lucky enough to have one of our assistant chiefs with us and a couple of her manager, director, and one of our analysts here today. And so I'm going to introduce Chief Gandara, and I'm going to let her tell you about her distinguished career here.
Oh,
Chief.
Perfect. Thank you. So I'm Helen Gund. I'm an assistant chief for operational services. I'm a civilian employee, and I represent really the management and oversight of most of our civilian employees in the department. I have 4 direct reports, which is our management and finance, all our procurement, our facilities, our technology, planning, research, and accreditation, which is Will Davis, who's here, is going to talk to us a little bit more, and Cassie Johnson, who's our stellar analyst in that division. We oversee also I think I might have said already duplicated myself and said technology, and really function and performing special projects for the chief and the chief's office in many different capacities.
You know, oftentimes our citizens only see the 911 first responders or the officers on patrol, and they may see some investigators if something happens within the neighborhood.
Or records if they come for
or
they come for a report.
Right, which is part of Operational Services Bureau. But this is really the functions in the organization that keep the organization running and making sure we provide the service we need to provide, whether you're calling in 911 and speaking to communications, going to records for that report, or having us do what we do through the technology that we have available to us. And so
and all the support services that goes with the officers, from their equipment to all the things that they have on their belt, to the cars, to I mean just every little detail to get an officer there for your call.
Right. So it's really great having you, because you guys are sort of the unsung heroes. But part of what we're going to talk about today is actually how we actually lead the organization, and have been leading the organization for a number of years through our strategic planning process. And we're going to talk about that as well.
Yes.
But you haven't told us a little bit about yourself. I think sometimes our viewers like to know a little bit the backgrounds of where our folks have come from. Just so they know, you're one of my 3 bureau chiefs, assistant chiefs, and so you have a large segment of the organization that reports to you, and then you report to me directly. So I think that's one thing that citizens need to know, and that you're a civilian, you don't have police powers to make arrests. So you worked your way up to a pretty high level in a police organization. Doesn't happen in all police organizations like this. And I think the viewers like to know a little bit about your history.
Sure, and I think from that perspective, our organization is a very progressive one in terms of not just the position that I hold, but also my direct reports and really the oversight of a lot of our functions. Many areas across the country are not staffed like this, like civilian employees. So I've been with the city for 19 years, and before that I came from the city of El Paso, Texas for 13 years. And so municipal government for a long period of time. I think I just dated myself. But I love working in local government. I have a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So this is kind of the area that I love.
Okay, so I'm going to brag on you just for a moment, because you also hold some positions in some national and local, state level organizations. And I think we should brag a little bit about it, because it's Scottsdale's influence in the industry. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, thank you, because that's like my passion, right? So I serve in many different capacities for juvenile justice. I'm a National Juvenile Justice Network Fellow for, I think, about 4 years ago. I also sit on the International Association's Chief of Police subcommittee for juvenile justice, and I'm actually a faculty member to this new initiative called the Police and Youth Engagement Institute, where we teach chiefs and young people how to engage. And so I've been a faculty member to that institute for a couple of years, and I also sit on the Governor's Commission for Juvenile Justice here in the state of Arizona.
Yeah, you're very busy, as I know. So I'm going to let you introduce Will and Cassie, but I want them to tell us about some of their standings and some of their background, as well as the organizations that they're involved in outside of our city limits that, again, bring credibility and bring support and actually bring ideas into our city.
And to share our ideas to other agencies who actually take a lot of what we do and implement them in their agencies as well.
So Helen, I'm going to let you introduce.
So Chief, we're really proud about that, because we do serve in many national spaces, right? Not just us to be here, but other staff members. And so we do get the opportunity to influence other organizations and policies and practices, but most important, we also get to kind of tout all the great work and progressive work that we do in the Scottsdale Police Department, and have other people then kind of use us as a best practices, and that's something we're really proud of. So Planning, Research, and Accreditation is a division that does that for our organization, kind of the central repository for our project work, for our strategic planning, for our accreditation, and all the other kind of special projects, our criminal history data and analysis and things like that. So Will Davis is our director. He's actually precedes me, because when I got here, he was already here, and can talk a little bit about that. And then Cassie Johnson, and we can talk about Cassie in a little bit.
Very good.
So Will, tell us a little bit tell us about your background first.
My background, I came from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, where I was working on them to try to implement an RMS system, and Scottsdale just happened to have a position open up, and that was in 1991.
Can you just say what RMS is, because people won't know what that is?
A records management system.
Thank you.
Okay, so I've joined Scottsdale in 1991, and had a stint in technology procurement and implementation, and then also got involved in policy development, accreditation, strategic planning, performance measures, and a number of variety of projects that have come my way over the years.
And I just want to add one thing to that. You know, when you say 1991 and you say records management systems, you have to understand that we didn't have records management systems in policing. Policing. And so you were there as a pioneer in trying to develop systems that would actually communicate with other systems and keep accurate records and be retrievable and be something you could use for analysis. And so that's huge. And so you were there really in the very early days of developing those systems. And today we're very, very fortunate to have those systems in place. And so I can appreciate some of the frustrations that you must have experienced as someone in that role, and because I experienced them as an investigator, as an officer, or as a supervisor at my level back in those days. And so that's a huge achievement. They may just think is that we've always had technology. We've not always had technology.
No, in fact, one of the first projects was changing out the KDTs in the police cars with laptop computers. There were not many agencies back then. In fact, we were one of the first agencies that actually did that. We had to wait on Motorola to develop some of the technology in order for us to put the laptops in the patrol car. But I did write an article on that in Law and Order magazine on implementing mobile computing in police cars.
Very cool.
Years ago.
Very cool. Well, welcome. We're glad to have you as a guest. You want to introduce Cassie for us?
Cassie Johnson. Cassie was an intern with Scottsdale in the crime analysis section years ago. And at one point when I had an opening, I had to open it 3 different times, and on the 3rd time, Cassie was lucky enough to be in a position to apply for it. So we're very fortunate that she came on board with us. Senior analyst, for us, and so she's kind of like my right hand. So
a little bit about your background.
So I have my bachelor's degree in psychology, and that's when I was investigating on what I wanted to do. So I took an internship with the crime analysis unit for my last year of undergrad. While I was there, I decided I loved local law enforcement, and that's where I wanted to stay. So I got my master's in public administration, and while I was there, I worked in city management as a graduate intern. Graduation was quickly approaching, and the opportunity came up to apply for a senior analyst position back with my home agency, which is exactly where I wanted to be. And so it was perfect timing and fortuitous, I guess.
Well, we're happy to have you. I'm sorry to cut you up here.
No, you're...
So we're happy to have you. I think your degree in psychology will go very handy in dealing with police headquarters. So now I wonder what you're
Especially our
I wonder what you're thinking now from this point on. But welcome. And I want to brag on the two of you because you both also work outside the borders of Scottsdale by representing organizations. So we'll start with you. What organizations are you? You're actually a leadership in planning organizations.
Right. I'm on the executive board of the International Association of Law Enforcement Planners. I'm the treasurer. I've been the treasurer for 9 years now and was just recently reelected at the conference last week in San Diego. So I will continue to serve as that role. But also, a few years ago, 2014, I happened to facilitate strategic planning for our organization. And so we had 65 members in a group, and not only did I facilitate creating our own strategic plan for the organization, but I taught them how to implement and conduct strategic planning, facilitated strategic planning for their organizations. And as a result of that, several agencies asked me to come and facilitate for them, and so that was a tremendous success for Scottsdale as well.
Okay, so how awesome. These are police planners, and we're teaching them how to do strategic planning.
Correct.
That's wonderful. And I'm very, very proud of our plan, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but I can see why they would reach out to you for your leadership and guidance in that. Outstanding. Wonderful. Cassie, I know you just recently received an award. Tell us about that.
I did. I'm also a member of the International Association of Law Enforcement Planners. I'm also the Southwest chapter president, and then there, in our accreditation capacity, there are state PACs is what we call them, Police Accreditation Coalitions, and I'm the vice president of the Arizona Police Accreditation Coalition. So those are my two leadership roles. But with ILEP, they do an annual Planner of the Year award. It's the Arthur J. Barnett Planner of the Year, and I was lucky enough to be the recipient for 2016. So
Very
I
cool.
was
Congratulations. We're very proud of you. Let me pop up a little bit. That's an international association that you were the Planner of the Year, and so we're very, very proud of you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what we do. So let's start talking about accreditation first. We're an accredited law enforcement agency. What does that mean in terms of our public?
Chief?
Well, I think for us and why it's important is because we have put ourselves voluntarily through this process by which we're accepting standards, right? National standards for best practices on how we do policing. And it's not an easy process. And like I said, it's voluntary. We have been accredited for a number of years. And so I think for our community, it means that we hold ourselves to the highest degree, and we're willing to put our workforce and our processes and our administrative policies through that so that we can assure the community and everyone we serve that we are honoring the best of the best in terms of policies and practices.
And isn't it true, sorry Chief, isn't it true that there's a limited amount of agencies that are accredited? I know when we were first accredited and when Chief Bartosh was here in the 90s, or it was that even might have been Chief Heidingsfield actually. Actually, it was before Bartosh. In the 90s, I mean, there was like, I think we were in like the 1% or 10% or something of agencies across the nation that were in this, you know, standards.
It's about 5% right now that are actually accredited agencies, and some of them are just now getting into the process. But we have been accredited since 1994, and it is a voluntary process. And CLIA, Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, is the body who accredits us, and they have 480 some standards that are really international best practices. And the commission is made up of 21 members, and 11 of those are law enforcement professionals, mostly chiefs, but 10 of them are could be mayors or city managers or that type of thing. And those 21 commissioners are the ones that review standards, approve them, and review agencies and approve their accreditation. So it's a 21 commission body that
It's a
approves
pretty
us.
big deal, isn't it?
It's a very big deal, and I want our citizens to realize we didn't get that in the 90s and then you rest on your laurels.
No.
No. Right.
You get reviewed, and it
Yes.
keeps changing how many years. It went from
Right.
3 years
Correct.
to 4 years. Now it's every year. So we
Yeah.
are constantly being inspected. We have to demonstrate proofs that we are adhering to standards. And one of the nice compliments we get from the commissioners when they come out is when they come out and talk to our employees, they tell us our employees don't just know the standards, they actually behave the standards. And that's really what we expect. It's what
Right.
our citizens expect, and it's what we expect from our employees, that they're demonstrating best practices. And so we're very, very proud of that. And I know that it's an ongoing process now because it's changed again to a yearly fact, but we're well on top of it with your leadership. Thank you all for that. And the cooperation and involvement of all of our employees. So that's great news. And so, and talking about that, let's talk a little bit about our strategic planning process, because it's a unique process that we started way back, I'm going to say 2004?
2003.
2003. Well, I came to the police department in 2002 as a deputy chief, and then I became the chief in 2003. And there was a lot of discussion about, the future. Good
Right.
economy, things were going well, Steve was growing, and we needed to see what the police department looked like and how we were going to be able to respond to those changes.
You realize that's 14 years already.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It seems like just yesterday. Thank you for making me feel old. But literally, we looked to a process, and I believe, Chief, it was you that brought this process forward with your knowledge of the process, and said, here's a process we can use. And we brought employees in together, representing all the organization. We brought some citizens in with us, and we created our first strategic plan. And we have created, every year we go back and review that to see if in fact anything's changed or if things are still the same. And during a period of time when things got kind of tough in the economy, things kind of slowed down. But I believe this year it's critical because things are starting to happen again.
Yes, the
Things
growth.
and our infrastructure is again,
And
aging.
technology.
Technology is changing.
Everything's changing.
This is a big year, so I know I probably pontificated
Very.
too much on this. Tell us a little bit about our strategic planning process and where we're at.
So I think what makes our process special is that it's truly participatory, and we wanted it to be that way from the beginning, from the onset, right? So because it wasn't going to be a document that we were just in a craft or a book with pretty pictures that was going to sit on a shelf. This truly is the document that guides us, that informs our budget decisions, right? Informs our frankly policies and informs our outreach and all of those things that we do with the community. So we wanted to make sure that it was participatory, right? So we have representatives from throughout the organization, different levels, different divisions. We have had citizens involved. We've done that in different ways. We've had community forums, we've had recruitment forums, we've had Hispanic outreach forums. We've had when we thought being proactive with our gang issues. And so we've just had many different ways by which to get public input and feedback based on whatever the issue was at hand. We've had separate technology summits also so that the department can be fully engaged with our technology needs, and then all of that is poured into our strategic plan. So we have one plan, one guiding document. And we visit it every month, right? We've assigned it to different levels throughout the organization so we can have not just participatory part of the organization when we create it, but also when we implement it and when we measure it and when we make sure it's fully in place and that we're living and breathing what we said we do. So I think that's what makes our plan a little bit different, is that it's just not a document and it's just not a guide, but it's truly part of how we do business.
Is it online, Chief?
Yes, it's online, as I mentioned
So
that.
I was gonna say
anybody's
people
interested
can read it.
in looking at the current one, and we're in the process of actually planning our next one, which is later on this month in October.
Right.
And so one of the things we did this year, and the citizens should know because they may be questioning about what happened to certain things, we had a Bridges Forum here that was part of the Checkered Flag Foundation, and we had community activists, and we had leaders in our school systems and our communities, as well as businesses. And so and our community members, and so we put this together, this forum to talk about current issues in law enforcement that are facing the country, not just the city of Scottsdale, but could be things that we need to be prepared for or address.
An example would be like maybe the body cams, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we had the Bridges Forum, and we brought all these people together, and as a result of the Bridges Forum, we're taking recommendations or comments made in that forum and incorporating into our strategic plan for action. The other thing we're doing this year is the President commissioned a group on 21st century policing. President Obama did this a number of years ago. We got that report, we pulled that report apart to look at what's appropriate to us, and we're incorporating those things that we need to work harder on and better on and improve on. We put that into our strategic plan. And then the city had a police department had a study done by the Center for Public Safety Management, and we took their recommendations and put those recommendations in our plan. So we've taken all these
other recommendations. There was hardly any in that one.
It was a great report.
Yes.
It was a very complimentary report, but still there's things that we can do because we always want to be moving forward. And this is the process we use to make sure we're always looking forward. And then why this is so critical this year, as I mentioned, is that the city is starting to see revitalization in the downtown. We're starting to see changes up north on the 101, the Scottsdale Road corridor. We're starting to see infill growth where it's going up instead of out.
Right, which means
so you're
more
seeing
people, more policing,
more
more different ways to police.
Correct.
Because it's high-rise buildings and stuff in a smaller area. There's a lot of challenges.
And we need to be prepared. And this is our way of telling our government that, hey, this is what we see coming down the pike. Here's what we think we need to be prepared. We can do one of two things. We need to be prepared for it or react to it. I would prefer being prepared. And I couldn't be more proud of our plan. I'm going to brag one more time real quick because we received the International Association of Law Enforcement Planners, International Association of Chiefs of Police Project of the Year Award back in 2007 for the strategic planning process that we use. And I looked on the board there. We have this board. I'm going to invite the citizens in to see our museum, but there's a map inside one of our rooms that has places around the country where Scottsdale has created something and had influence, and there's almost 40. There's almost 40 locations here and in Canada where City of Scottsdale has had influence as a result of our process. And so I couldn't be more proud of the work you all have done to guide us well into the what are we in the 21st century? Well into the 21st century.
Yeah, Chief, and I would like to say for that, we got that award based on an article that we wrote for strategic planning as a management philosophy. And as Helen had mentioned, not only is it participatory, but we have accountability and sustainability built into our plan. So we ensure that people are held accountable for what they do in the plan, and we also make sure that it's sustained and we can continue the process from year after year.
Sounds good. So what else are we working on out of your offices? I know you've got a lot of different projects that the citizens like to know about.
One of the newest things we've been working on is process mapping and improvement.
Okay. Now explain what that means.
Okay. So this is a city initiative. We sit on a city task force, and we're designing a new process that we can roll out citywide, where people can recommend projects that they want to look at in depth and study them to create an as-is diagram. This is how we do it now. And then you look at that diagram and you see if you can identify anything that's inefficient or wasteful, and if you can streamline it a little bit, and then you create a to-be diagram. So that process mapping and improvement process is something that's fairly new and we're excited about. And in fact, I sent several of my staff members and myself through training on that, and we're all process mapping and improvement analysts certified now. So,
interesting.
And there's so many other divisions that you have, Chief, that are so critical to the support of the police department, to both the sworn and civilians, that we couldn't get into really in depth. But Chief and I know Chief would agree with me. We would love to have you back with another group of your employees and, kind of explain what they do, because as usual, Chief is very pro-civilian. And, although the citizens just see uniform all the time, it's the support of the civilians and the different areas within the department that make the officers be able to do their job and not worry about the little things.
Which actually for me, it's when you ask like, what do I do? It's hard to capture all that because I want to be inclusive of everything, and so we get like, well, we do that, we do that, we do that, but we do have several major divisions that oversee all those. But it can mean so many things, right? So I'd be more than happy to come back and bring more of
it'd
our
be great.
staff
We'd
and
love to have
showcase some
that.
of that.
And that is the value really of the Citizens Academy, because I think Citizens Academy participants get to see more than just the things that are evident and obvious to them
Yeah,
that
more
they
than
see
just
day
the
to day. They
officers,
get to see the other behind the scenes. I think tonight we're going to communications and
Right,
they'll see the
we'll be in
911 operators,
communications tonight,
which is
yeah.
I've always said the most stressful job in law enforcement, bear none, only because they're the ones that people are calling into with emergencies and are looking for help and assistance and safety and protection immediately. And we've got amazing employees that handle that very, very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also under Helen's umbrella.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Okay, I want to thank you guys. It's been a pretty quick
Yeah, it
20
went
20
really
some minutes.
quick.
Wow.
But with the things that you're doing for the organization to help us move forward as an organization, the leadership you provide to all of us is just phenomenal. And what the citizens are seeing is they're seeing an organization that's extremely professional, extremely accountable, extremely approachable as a result of the hard work that you all provide us. And so thank you so much
Thank you
for
for
that.
being our guest
All
today.
right.
Thank
You're very
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That ends another episode of Behind the Badge. That was pretty quick, huh?
Yes.
So-
And if you have any extra Halloween candy.
Chocolate.
Dark.
Yeah, dark chocolate. Yeah, because apparently this week is
It's
healthy.
better for
This
you.
week is healthy.
It's better
so
for
eat that.
you.
You know, I did want to quickly mention we do have our museum,
Yes.
and in our police headquarters building located 8401 Indian School, which is open to the public and
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
yeah. And if you let us know you're coming, if you call you and let us know you're coming, we'll have somebody there that can greet you and show you some things. But
Absolutely.
it is an opportunity for you to see some of the things that are going on within the police department, our units. We're very, very proud of that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you next month. Until then, be safe. Bye-bye. Take care.